What's up, family? This is the Locker Room Beef podcast. Sorry that you landed here, but now you have to stay. Hope we are able to entertain you a bit. We have one of our regulars in today. It's Brian Boatright, and you'll know him as Brain. Brain's a super awesome guy. I hope you guys really appreciate him. He's got a wide variety of sports knowledge, and you'll be able to taste a little bit of that today. Make sure you go follow us on social media if you haven't already. That's at Locker Room Beef. And then you can also check out our website, lockerroombeef.com, for sports articles and a hub of all that we offer. Today we talk about Brian's affiliations, teams and athletes and such. We also talk about his thoughts on college football, hockey, the toughest sport to play and the hardest position in sports. We also mention where we think the NBA and the NFL are heading, as well as some Champions League predictions. At the end, we also have probably our best conversation about the top 5 athletes of the 21st century. Make sure you go check that out. It's definitely a good segment. And let's do it. What's up, family? This is the Locker Room Beef podcast. I'm joined by a wonderful guest today. It is Brain Boatright. That's his nickname. But we call him Brain just because, he does go by Brian to a lot of people. But for here, he's Mr. Brain. He knows all. You can't test him on anything. He's got the triplets pointed to the face right now. He's Carmelo Anthony on the 3-point line. What's up, Brian? How are you?
How are we doing today? It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. So let's get to know you a little bit, have the listeners know you a little bit. We've been, best friends for a couple of years now. So I know you a decent amount, but the listeners, want to get to know you, and you're obviously a sports fanatic. So just talk to me a little bit about the teams that I guess you sort of abide by the most, and also players if you feel like you have a couple of players that you really feel like you follow more than anyone. So we can start by maybe the ones that you follow the most.
All right. Yeah. So I was basically born into a sports family. Followed them all my life. Say the top sport right now for me would be hockey. Be the New York Rangers. It's just going to be my number one hockey team. I'm following them all 82 games of the season. Next to be football. I'd say I'm a pretty big Gator fan. It's going to be my college football team. With the NFL, it's going to be the Jaguars and the Giants. Jags are trending up. Giants are trending down, and they're going down.
Shout out.
Basketball. Used to live in Arkansas for a while, so I was there when the Thunder actually became a team. Funny story, I actually picked the Thunder on the poll that they started for what team name do they want to have.
Oh, that's cool.
I was like, all right, well, I have a hand in this team, Soccer, I don't really say I have a big allegiance to any team. I would say the number one team would be Ireland. I follow them. Actually just qualified for the playoff today.
Yeah, that's awesome.
A good day. Individual athletes, I kind of keep it individual sports. So I'd say Rafa would be number one in tennis. But the thing about tennis is that you can almost respect so many different players. You got like Djokovic and Fedor.
Roger. Yeah.
And, you just got Tsonga. You just got all these dudes you can respect. Really, the only one I don't like is Andy Murray because he's a whiny little bitch.
He's a cutie.
Accurate.
And then golf. I love Phil. But, I love a good old American Jordan Spieth. And I have to give a nice shout out to Smiley Kaufman because he's sponsored by Natty Light, baby.
What?
Get it going.
Get it going.
That's about it, I got to say. Can't really think of any other sport. But, I'd say I watch any sporting event is on. I'm watching it. I'm in.
Yeah, I think part of the reason, obviously, I have you on this pod is just because I know that your sports love is a wide range.
Yeah.
But I also know for especially those teams that you mentioned, I've experienced it firsthand with a lot of those sports. Knowing every player by their first name, their tendencies, what they're good at, what they're bad at. That's a true sports fan. So you're a reason I have you on the pod is because I want it. So let's talk a little bit about. I guess I know you mentioned UF. It's definitely a team that it's almost scary to watch a UF game. It's an entertainment in itself because
I'm telling you what.
I mean, you look like a offensive line coach when you're watching the U.S. football
I'm like
team.
a Miami offensive line coach doing crack cocaine off a table waiting for a team meeting. Like, that's what I'm like, bro.
Shout out.
I mean, this man knows me. Like, I'm either sitting in my room, locked in my room, and I'm locked in, or I'm sitting out on the couch in the apartment, and I am just losing my shit every single play. Someone's doing something wrong, and I'm losing my mind about it. I don't know. It's just part of me. Like, I'm always looking for what goes wrong, and for right now, the Gators' offense is going wrong. That's it.
Yeah, it's been a tough time for the Gators, especially at the quarterback position. I feel bad for them. I mean, you know this, but I've grown up an FSU fan, so it's kind of funny how we contradict in there. But I think we're both also similar in that a lot of Florida State or FSU fans, they just despise the other university just because, which I get it. You know, I love rivalry. But I think you and I both sort of respect the other school and, like, definitely their football program, what they've been able to do. I mean, I basically started following FSU football when Tebow was housing them.
Well, me?
So I took 4 straight years of that, but then you took 4 straight years,
Of
I believe.
Jaboo.
Jaboo. Shout out to Jaboo.
Shout out.
Jaboo wins, baby.
So, yeah, it's definitely been a crisscross. But just talk to me a little bit about what you see for college football this season, what you've seen so far, and maybe your predictions for what's going to happen, what players you're impressed with, that kind of thing.
It has been a wild year for college football, man. When you get, like, last year you get OSU stomping Oklahoma in Oklahoma, and they're singing their alma mater on the field, and Baker seemed to take that harder than any other college football player I think I've ever seen in my life. Like, going back to Tebow when he lost and he made the promise that they would become the best team in the country, and then they win the national championship. I mean, it was crazy. And then Baker comes back and obliterates Ohio State. I mean, he obliterated Ohio State up and down the damn field.
No one saw that coming.
And then planted the flag on the field. I mean, that was I don't think you could have a better opening game for college football weekend. You know what I mean? Like, that was just incredible.
I agree.
And then they decided to lose to Iowa State. That was their title chances.
Yeah.
Alabama, still a strong suit. I feel like if you ever had a reason to question Alabama, though, this would be the year. It's weird when they let might have been Ole Miss. I want to say it was Ole Miss. I mean, they were playing Ole Miss, and they trashed them for the first half, and then they let them get back into the game, and then they had to recover an onside kick to win the game. I mean, come on, Alabama. What are you doing? But the sad part is they play Arkansas this week, and they're going to obliterate Arkansas because Nick Saban is going to be up their ass the whole week.
What?
Do you think Nick Saban is the greatest football coach of all time?
No.
Yeah.
What?
I do. I think it's crazy because it's almost like it's him,
Bear
and then
Bryant.
it's like Bear Bryant right
Yeah.
at his heels. Like he. It's just crazy how they're both in Alabama. Now I'm trying to figure out what streets are they going to name, Saban Street and Bryant Street.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to start crossing at some point. You can't have Saban crossing Saban. You know what I mean? Like, they got to find someone.
Yeah.
But yes, I do think Nick Saban is the best college football coach of all time.
I agree. That guy's just a monster.
And he's just incredible.
And I think it's just so difficult for me to be a college coach in general because you have 2 jobs, and a lot of people just don't realize you have 2 jobs. And one is to coach the sport, right? That's sort of the obvious one that you sort of see glamorized. But the other one that is just, if not more, equally important in college is to be able to recruit. And that guy's a monster. I don't see how every year he takes these unbelievable 4-star, 5-star recruits and says, hey, you want to come play backup for us? And these kids are like, yeah, I do, because it's a farmhouse for the NFL. And a lot of kids, I mean, they end up making the right decision because they're around NFL talent in their college years, so I get that. But it's amazing. It's like that. It's like the UConn women. I don't get how every year they're able to get these phenomenal players just to want to sit on the bench, and that's what they end up doing.
With that point about the UConn women, you're now starting to see other powerhouses start to recruit better. So you're starting to see an increase in these teams that want to take down, the champion.
Yeah, I agree.
And a good example of that would be Clemson. Like, they are recruiting ridiculous. I don't know what rank they are, but they got to be top 5 right now. Like, they are just doing an incredible job on the recruiting trail to try and, beat down Alabama again. And right now, I don't see another championship besides Alabama Clemson for round 2. I don't see anyone else competing for it. I think Alabama's toughest challenge for the rest of the season is going to be when they play with Georgia in the SEC championship game. I just don't see either of those two teams losing. I mean, it's incredible. And then you got Clemson, and I think Florida State was going to be their toughest opponent, and Florida State just has not panned out to be what you expected, mainly because of DeAndre Francois. You can't fault him for a kid getting injured, but I mean, Blackman just is not doing what you know. But he's a true freshman quarterback at the same time, so it's not like you can expect him to put this team on his back, you know.
Yeah, I was hoping somehow we would get another Jabu kind of scenario out of him, but it was asking a lot. I knew right away as soon as I saw Francois go down. It just sucked because that game was basically over versus Alabama, and I just, that was the whole season, and obviously it's already been the entire season with horrible losses already. So they're looking rough. I definitely don't think they're in playoff contention, but any surprise team, let's say not Clemson, Alabama, that you're like, you know what, they actually have a shot if things pan out?
TCU.
What?
Why is that?
That defense, man. They're giving up big plays, and I'll give it to them. Like, they're the kind of team that they will bend, but they will not break.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
You know what I mean? Like, that defense will take a pounding by whoever they're playing against, but they always come up with the big play. They always consistently come up with the play that you need to win a ball game, and that's what you got to do. I mean, it's just crazy. Georgia, I mean, when you have Jacob Eason go down in the second week of the season, I think it was the second or third week of the season, and you have a true freshman come in and Jake Fromm, and he is taking the team over. I mean, it's like a San Francisco 49ers when Kaepernick took over for Alex Smith. Like, it's who do you play? Do you come back and go to the old man that got you to where you are, or do you stick with the young gun that's putting you in the playoffs, you know? Yeah. And it's just hard. Georgia is going to be a very interesting team going forward because they just got her commit from Justin Fields, the number 1 quarterback out of high school. You got Jake Fromm as a true freshman, and you have Jacob Eason. Who's leaving that team is what I'm asking. It's either Jake or it's going to be Eason.
Yeah, a lot of talent coming Georgia's way, which has actually been a while since they've really been up there in the charts. I mean, they've always been a ranked squad, but I can't remember the last time. They've always been a
solid team.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time they've been top 5, top 8. You know,
it's been a while. It was early in Mark Richt's career, and that was Mark Richt's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Speaking of contact sports, let's sort of transition to another one that you definitely mentioned as one of your affiliation teams, being in that the Rangers. Actually, this is kind of crazy and sad considering I have somewhat of a sports platform here. I've never been to an NHL game, but Brian, that's actually going to change. This Saturday, I'm going to my first NHL game, which I'm pretty excited about. I'll see the Lightning play the Blues, which I imagine the Blues is a horrible team.
What?
No, sir, you cannot be farther from the truth. They're number 1 right now.
He's an idiot.
No way. Gosh,
that's not saying much though, because they're only 2-0.
Yeah, but still, that's actually pretty awesome.
They are trending up. St. Louis Blues are a very good team, but I do see the Lightning winning that game. But why? Because Stammer is back. Steven Stamkos, their captain. That's their guy.
Yeah.
And their power play 1 line is just incredible. You got Victor Hedman out there. You got Stammer back. I mean, it's unfair when you play that power play 1
if you had to sort of predict how hockey's going to go this season, what do you see?
I am sad to say, but for the same year, the Rangers will not win yet again.
No.
I do not see them making it on. I do think right now the Pittsburgh Penguins have the best shot. I think just because of the same core that they have. I mean, they still have Sid the Kid. They still got Malkin. They still got they got their young stud in goal. And their coaching staff is incredible. Right now, I don't see a team that can beat them right now. But at the same hand, you got Washington right now, who is really in a good spot because Ovi got 2 straight hat tricks to start the season, which hasn't been done in, I think, over 100 years or something like that.
Insane.
I mean, it's just incredible what he's doing. I think he put up, I'm pretty sure he scored the first goal against the Canadians in their last game in 42 seconds. So he's on one right now. I think he's pissed about Russia not winning the Worlds over the summer. The Lightning, they're going to be a very tough team to play against. I think the Red Wings are playing well right now, but I'll tell you one team that I remember I was telling you this at the beginning of last year's playoffs, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out to
Watch
the
out
Six.
for those kids. Shout out to the Six. Those young kids have got something clicking. Over the offseason, they picked up Patrick Marleau, who is an incredible veteran presence that they picked up off San Jose. And I think if you get, those young kids with a veteran mindset, you know what I mean? Like you put them around him, teach them how to prepare for every game, how to get ready for a playoff game. I mean, the ceiling is the roof for these guys.
What?
Shout out to Michael Jordan.
Shout out.
The ceiling is the roof.
The ceiling is the roof.
God, I
Funny
wish I had the
story.
pod set up when that happened, because I would have roasted Jordan.
I had a guy walk into where I work, which is over at Universal, with the ceiling is the roof shirt. And I was like,
That is amazing. Yeah, it kind of
couldn't
became this
believe it.
huge thing. I remember watching Sports Nation the next day, and Michelle Beadle was like trying to act like, she was being facetious, but she was trying to act like, wait, maybe he's onto something, guys. And it's just amazing because obviously Michael Jordan, one of the best to ever do it.
He's an idiot.
How do you say something that dumb? And the thing is, it looked so purposeful. He didn't like backtrack or anything. He freaking stuck that landing.
Exactly. He owned it. He owned that thing. He's like, I said it. I meant it. And you're just like, but what did you mean? What was in your mind?
I know it's a tongue twister, just at least to say the least. But let's talk a little bit about. We've talked about football, talked about hockey. Definitely some brutal contact sports. I'm interested to hear your opinion on who you think, or what do you think is like the toughest sport to play? I mean, you and I, just to give our listeners a little taste. I played basketball in high school, which is a pretty like kind of normal sport to play in high school, I think. And then my junior year, basketball got pretty serious for me because I had a lot of collegiate aspirations and stuff.
No.
So one of my best friends at the time, who I didn't know you, his name is Alex.
Shout out.
He played water polo, which for people who don't know, it's kind of like soccer, but in the water, and you're treading water the whole time, and it's with like this volleyball looking ball, and it's super fun, it's super difficult, and you're in Speedos, in case you didn't know. So
What?
yes, I wore a Speedo, judge me if you'd like.
That's not cool, man.
The mental game went up after you played water polo.
Believe me, I honestly did not play water polo my freshman season or sophomore season due to the Speedo. If you're gonna say, wow, Kevin, how'd you do it? It took me 2 years, okay? I literally would have played my freshman year if I couldn't get over it. So I ended up getting over it. I tried out. Actually, I didn't try out. If I had to try out, I probably wouldn't have made it. The coach was just like, yeah, honestly, Ked, you could play. And I ended up playing goalie, and it was a super fun experience, and that's kind of how I got to meet you. And so I definitely think for me, so one of the toughest sports to play, maybe number one, honestly, is water polo. I'm going to defend it and say, look, you're treading water the entire time. There's no rest. Just if you don't believe me, go tread water for 2 minutes.
Well, me?
It's really freaking difficult. And
If
then
you can even make it 2 minutes.
Exactly. And the other thing is, that's not the sport. That's the rest position, okay? So in the middle of all that, you're swimming, you're moving different sides. Go watch a water polo game. Just go to YouTube and look up water polo. You're going to see some insane big athletes that are super agile and just monsters. And they can whip around this ball, and you can only catch the ball with one hand. So
What?
imagine that coordination while you're swimming, while you're trying to keep your head above water. It's exhausting. It was the best shape I ever was in my life. For me, probably the toughest sport is water polo. What do you think?
I agree with you that it's one of the toughest sports. Now, my backstory for water polo is I transferred into Bishop Moore, where Kevin and I both went to high school.
Shout out.
Halfway through my freshman year, so I didn't know anyone. Like, I was just lost. So I was in.
You're kind of like Mello in OKC right now.
Well, me?
Exactly. Like, why is the only club open Applebee's at 11 o'clock? What is this? Like, what?
Applebee's is lit in OKC.
LKC, baby. It's the only place open. It's where you meet everyone. So my homeroom was with this dude named Mr. Lamb.
Shout out.
And I was like, oh, this guy's got a funny as hell name. Like, well, who is this guy? turns out to be one of the best teachers I think I've ever had in my entire life. But I basically had him every single year that I was in school. He was my homeroom teacher freshman year. He was my AP World History my sophomore year. He was...
You flexing your brain right now?
No, I'm not flexing my brain because I did not do well on that. On that final. And he was the coach my junior years when I finally decided to join. I remember my sophomore year, he was like, "Hey, Boatright, you want to play water polo?" Because he was basically going down the entire class roster. He's like, "You want to play water polo?" So I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll try it out." But I never ended up doing it. And finally, my junior year, I didn't have him as a teacher, but he was already one of my favorite people. So I went back and he was like, "You want to play water polo?" And I was like, "You know what? I'll give this a shot." I remember the most embarrassing time of my entire life was going to Sports Authority and trying to find a Speedo with my mom.
Oh my gosh.
You don't know embarrassing until you're like, "Excuse me, where are your Speedos?" with your mom.
Oh my gosh.
It is the most humiliating.
awkward.
I remember that like the back of my hand.
What?
When Sports Authority existed, shout out Sports Authority.
Shout out Sports Authority, former sponsor.
Yes, former sponsor. Not really, but like if you want to sponsor us at this point, you probably can't pay me
You're
much.
not
But
losing
I'll
anything.
honestly put you on the pod. It sounds good. So I went to Sports Authority and I go in there, and you typically know when you're going to Sports Authority where you're going because you're like, "Oh, I'm looking for shoes or a basketball or whatever." But you're like, "Oh, they sell Speedos, right?" And you don't really know because like you're not in the market for that typically. And I go in there with my mom, and I literally put the Speedo up to my waist, and I'm like, "Do you think it fits?"
What?
And I'm wearing jeans on, so I'm wearing plenty of cloth, and
Right.
I'm trying to think, I can literally hold my game uniform in my palm.
Yep.
It's disgusting. And just to give you an idea of how shocking it is to kind of hold up that Speedo, when I got to college and I took a public speech class, one of my first speeches was how to get out of your comfort zone. And I talked about the experience of playing water polo and actually putting on a Speedo, because as you can tell by now, it was a big deal for me. And what ended up happening was you had to have some sort of visual aid. So when I introduced the fact that I had to wear a Speedo, I literally took it out of my pocket. It fit no problem. And I held it up with a finger in one side and another finger in the other side, and held it up like I was auctioning where my balls were. And the entire class's face was just struck.
Oh wow.
And it was absolutely hilarious. I've never seen a reaction like that. So yeah, definitely something I had to get over. But what do you think is the toughest sport?
Okay. Let me just get back to it. I think the toughest sport is ice hockey, because you have to have the speed and agility of a speed skater, a figure skater, and you got to be ready to lay a hit down like you're in the MMA.
That's enough.
You have to have the hand-eye coordination to be able to handle a puck moving across ice. You have to get up to speeds of 19 kilometers an hour to try and get away from a defenseman.
This man did research. I love it.
Take that for
This stuff is no joke. Like, you have to bring it every single game. I mean, you lose teeth in the middle of the game because you get hit by a puck. I mean, that stuff is crazy.
And you keep playing. I mean, I can't remember
And you
how many
keep going.
times you've told me that a player has like severely injured something and they finish out the game. That's insane to me.
Two stories I can remember. One year I was watching the Boston Bruins in the playoffs, actually, and they were on a penalty kill. So on a penalty kill, it's a 5-on-4, right? So you got your four guys. You basically got two defensemen, two forwards, and your whole job is to just clear the puck, just get it into the other team zone, just so you can kill some time, right?
Just clear that shit.
Exactly, just get that shit out of here. So these dudes are just whacking this puck, just whacking the shit out of this puck at the goalie.
What?
This defenseman goes down to basically do a butterfly. So you're basically butterflying onto the ice. This guy takes it right in the back of the leg, shatters his leg. Like, it's shattered, it's gone. And this guy's still out there for 45 seconds trying to kill off this penalty, and he's playing like nothing happened. Eventually he gets to the bench because someone has to carry him because he can't even put any weight on his leg. I mean, that shit is crazy. Like, these guys, I don't know how they do it. Crack, I don't know.
What?
Well, probably a little bit.
They take free-game cortisone shots. I mean, I don't know what they do.
Yeah, they're insane. Hockey athletes are insane. I think it's a great answer. I agree with you.
It's a toss-up. It's always been a toss-up for me, especially since I played water polo, because I don't think I had an appreciation for water polo until I finally played it. Because I remember before I started playing water polo, Coach Lamb asked me, he goes, "Can you swim?" I was like, "Yeah, I can swim, no problem." And he goes, "No, can you swim?"
Yeah.
And I was like,
I'm out, man.
"Oh fuck."
Oh my gosh, we swam miles in practice. Just to give people an idea, our practices would be 2 hours long. The first hour, you're just swimming, and you're not like taking breaks. You're swimming the whole time, back and forth, back and forth. So if you think you can swim, look, I remember watching Alex, the friend I mentioned, and seeing his games, and I was like, I would freaking dominate this sport. I was a decent athlete in high school. I played basketball. I started a lot of games, whatever, and I've always considered myself like, man, I could pick up any sport if I really wanted to.
Nope.
So I looked at water polo as like some chump sport, and I was like, I could dominate. What ended up happening is after my first practice, it was so difficult. I was like, yeah, I'll be goalie, which isn't necessarily the easiest position, but way easier than being a field player. So I was humbled quickly.
Oh yeah, I mean, shoot, I remember one of our practices. We swam 3 miles, and then we started practice.
I know.
We swam 3 miles and then started practice. I mean, you're sitting there and you're like, Lamb, you trying to kill us? Like, you even want us to be ready for tomorrow's game?
Yeah, for sure. Any honorable mentions you think should be had for toughest sports?
Boxing.
Oh man, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
That's some endurance game, and I really don't think. Again, I don't think I really appreciated it until I saw the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. Did not appreciate the fight, but appreciated the athleticism that it took between the two guys to be able to sit there and kind of throw punches. For 12 rounds. I mean, that just mind-blowing. And then you see Conor McGregor go up against him, and I mean, this dude was barred away the best MMA fighter in recent years. I mean, I'd pick him over anyone in his weight class for any time, Yeah. And he gets rocked by Floyd. I mean, the kind of athleticism this dude needs to be able to go 50-0, never getting knocked out. I mean, that's just mind-blowing.
I agree with you. I think another honorable mention, a lot of people don't really think about it, and it's a lot more mental, is golf. I think golf is such a difficult sport, and it's so mental. And if you don't agree with me, look at Tiger Woods.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Okay, the dude gets in. It's not by chance. The dude had like 47 PGA championships or some crazy stuff like that.
What?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, after the whole debacle with the car crash and the lady scandal and all that,
he's an idiot.
And then he literally hasn't won since. He doesn't even qualify for tours anymore, and that was arguably the greatest golfer of all time. So I definitely think golf is super difficult. Obviously not physically. Yes, you can play it when you're 70 and be good. Don't at me, okay?
Well, me?
But mentally, it's so difficult. And if you don't think so, like, go play around and see how you do. It's freaking insane what they're able to do.
I totally agree on the mental aspect of it. I mean, it's just, and you mess up once, that shit's in your head for the entire round. Like, why did I pull my shot? Why did my shot go left? Why did it go right? Why did it go in water? Why did an alligator eat my damn ball? Shout out Happy Gilmore.
Shout out.
Sorry, Chubbs, for losing your hand. I mean, it's just like, it's just such a mental game that you got to put everything else out. Like, whatever you did on the last hole, it doesn't mean anything. It ain't worth nothing anymore. You could totally blow it the next hole.
I agree. It's difficult because after you blow a hole, you have to tell yourself, okay, now I got to climb back.
Exactly.
It's just so difficult. So I definitely think that's a good one. Let's transition a little bit, sort of similar topic, but I want to go into more individuals. Maybe like, what's the hardest position in sports? I think there's a lot of difficult ones. I think a lot of people just don't really respect a lot of different sports and what players are able to do until you go do it yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel, just to give you an idea of mine, I've said for a long time that I think the most difficult sport is quarterback, and it sort of affirmed to me when I started playing just flag football and like intramurals on campus. And obviously that's not nearly as serious, but like just having like 6 receivers and having a countdown and like trying to find a pocket. I don't really have to even worry about getting tackled or anything. The worst case scenario is somebody pulls my flag, and misses and hits me in the balls, which that happened before.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's literally the worst thing I have to worry about. I mean, these NFL quarterbacks, obviously, they have to read 3-5 routes of whatever's going on. They have
Within
to
3
read
seconds.
defense within a couple of seconds. They have these giant alien specimen type athletes coming for them like he's got a bone of meat and they're all hungry. Like,
What?
It's insane what quarterbacks have to endure. And then if they get hit, they just have to get right back up and do it again. So for me, I think quarterback's a huge one. I've recently sort of shifted. I would say it's maybe tied for me with number one, and it's a little bit of a biased position, but I'm going to say point guard in the NBA, and here's why. It's not necessarily because of all the responsibilities you have, which definitely has to be noted, because the difference between quarterback, when I think maybe a point guard should have an honorable mention, is because you have to play defense, and there's two sides of the game in basketball. And
Do you play defense, though?
Well, and definitely there's a lot of point guards in the NBA that are successful that don't play great D. But I think the greatest point guards are good defenders as well, at least all right defenders. And the thing is, even if they're all right defenders, they have to expend a ton of energy on that side. So it's not like that you can just sub them in for offense and then not for defense. So I think point guard should get a shout out. And the other reason is because now in the NBA, there are so many elite point guards.
Well,
I mean, you look at like Mike Conley, for example. That guy 20 years ago would have been one of the best point guards in the NBA, but he's not even mentioned when it comes to all-stars selection. So I definitely think point guard's such a tough position to play, especially at the most elite level. But what are your thoughts? What do you think of the most positions?
Those are two very good arguments. I actually have two totally different positions in mind for two totally different sports as well. You might be able to surprise by the first one, pitcher.
What?
Okay, why is that?
Because you got to put that ball in a specific spot every single time. You have to memorize which 9 guys have been up to bat. You got to know where they take the pitch and where they don't take that pitch. And if you put it where they can take that pitch a yard, you're screwed. That ball's gone. You got to put it in the exact position that you need it in every single time. And if you don't, it's on you.
Then Aaron Judge is going to smack you.
Aaron Judge will put that shit in 600 yards.
All rise.
I love that, man.
Shout out.
Second is either Cam or CDM in soccer.
I'm out, man.
Wow. Okay, why is that?
Just the sheer running you have to do, man.
Is it because you when we play pro clubs that you just have so much respect for me when I play Cam?
What?
That's not it at all, because you screwed that up so many times, and I'm like, what are you trying to do right now? No, I'm kidding. Kevin's the reason we're in most of these games anyway. If it was just, you should see it whenever he gets a red card. When I get a red card, we can manage, which is every other game. But when he gets a red card, we are fighting for the tie. That's what we're going for. But no, I think Cam and CDM. And I think that way because you got to play box to box. Okay, not many positions have to do it. You look at, Messi, Ronaldo. You look at the top strikers. You look at Neymar, Cavani. You look at these guys. They aren't playing defense. They walk back to get energy so that they can just sprint down the field to try and get another goal. They try and get an open spot. Defensemen, they're really only like box to half. So you're not really... you're exerting energy, don't get me wrong. And if you think about that, like Real Madrid is a good example. Their wingers, their defensive wingers are all the way up the field every single time. Like Marcelo is up in the attacking third all the time. So you got to think like that man's got some pretty big time endurance. But Cam and CDM have to do it on a consistent level. They got to do it every single time that ball is going either side of the field. And you got to be able to be so on every time with your passes. You got to expect them to be the highest passing percentage on the team. Good example, Tony Cruz. That guy, not a Cam CDM, but could be a CDM. I wouldn't put him as a Cam. He's got that German pace. Yeah. But that man has the top passing percentage on the team every single year. It's always like 97.
I know,
How the hell do you
insane.
have a passing percentage of 97 when you're playing the top teams in Europe and everywhere? It's just crazy. So I think those two would be my number one positions. And then, after talking about water polo, that set position.
What?
Oh my
You are
gosh.
in the fight of your life.
For people that don't really know how water polo works, it's basically the center position. So like if you take the center position for basketball, all the dirty work they got to do as far
You're
as
in
like
that
it's kind
paint 24/7.
You're basically just feeding the posts kind of mindset, and you're just hoping that guy just goes for the kill and scores a goal. It's insane because they're treading the whole time. They're the one that swims the farthest because they have to defend that position too. They're the one that gets in all the scraps. They get drowned underwater every other play. It's insane what they're able to endure. I agree with you.
I remember at one point I was put in a can or at set, and I was like,
I can't do it.
like I looked at Lamb, and I just gave him the what the fuck are you talking about? I was like,
Oh my gosh.
dude, these kids will put my ass underwater so fast that I'll be drowned. Like I can't do that.
Yeah, you're just hoping for your buoyant at that point.
What?
Yeah, I'm basically hanging on to the other whole D in there, and I'm just trying to make sure that he doesn't drown me and that I don't drown him. So that position is just incredible.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just to go back to Camp CDM, a lot of people don't realize the midfielders on average, they run like 8-10 miles a game.
Oh, wow.
Right? And they're not just running, right? It's short sprints, it's long sprints, it's filling in lanes, it's turning and passing, it's reading the defense, it's tackling. Like a lot of people just don't understand, like, they call it a sweet science for boxing. There's a sweet science to being a good soccer player, and a lot of it has to do with when you don't have the ball.
Yep.
And so I think Cam and CDM, that applies to them almost probably the most on the
Sure.
pitch. So I think that's definitely true. Let's pivot a little bit to there's a lot of variety in sports. In America, I think like we focus on like probably like 4 or 5 sports mainly, which I mean, look, my favorite sport is basketball and soccer. I kind of follow basketball the most, but I love soccer so much I can't say no if a game is on. With that being said, I mean, I love the NFL as well. I enjoy a baseball game when it's not boring, so I don't really enjoy a baseball game.
Only until recent years.
I do think one day I'm going to get a hockey fix, and I'm just going to get really into hockey. Maybe that's going to happen this weekend when I watch my Lightning go Lightning.
I'm telling you what, dude, when you go to your first hockey game, there's some kind of magic that's worked on you.
Yeah, it's definitely a losing the virginity sort of feeling, I think.
What?
So let's talk a little bit about, look, I definitely think Jalen Rose has said this.
Shout out.
So if the NFL and the NBA were at a stoplight, the NBA is pulling off in a Lamborghini,
Yeah.
and the NFL is in a minivan.
No.
And I think what he's trying to say is, I think the NBA is getting a little sexier. Their players are a lot more marketable. If you look at the latest Madden commercials, it's 2 NBA players, Chris Paul and James Harden. And look, you can say it's because they're wearing helmets. A lot of people don't know what they look like. If it's not a famous quarterback, I don't know who it is. But like, you go look at who makes the most money as far as athletes go, and because of endorsements, it's a ton of NBA players. And I think there's a reason for that. And I think it's only going to increase, and I think the NFL is only going to decrease. So you can name all the political stuff, the concussion stuff. I mean, the NFL is sort of in the midst of a lot of negativity recently. So, I mean, you can sort of see where I'm going with this. I sort of think that the NBA is eventually going to surpass the NFL in popularity. I think it's right now. It's not even a contest. The NFL is more popular, and they make more money. I think they make about $14 billion, whereas the NBA makes $8 billion. But I do think the NFL is sort of trending downward in popularity, and I think that the NBA is trending upward. So I don't know, in 10 to 20 years, where do you see it? Like, how do you see that panning out?
What's going to be shitty for these viewers is they're going to realize that we both agree on this topic. I only see the NBA trending up and the NFL trending down. And one of the sole purposes is the one, like you said, the political stuff, and 2, the concussions. And I feel like the concussion is the biggest number 1 problem. If you see right now in America, you see a lot of these concussion tests coming out, and they are saying some bad stuff about these hits. And it's not like these guys don't know it. At this point, for the older players, you almost feel bad for them because you're like, wow, you guys didn't even know the science behind this. But if you're still playing football at this point, you're almost like, I mean, you're doing this to yourself, bro. You're accepting the fact that you're going to have a messed up brain for the rest of your life. Depending, it depends on what position you play. Kickers won't. But, you get like big ass offensive linemen that are cracking skulls every single play. Stuff happens. I mean, you can't avoid a hit in football,
No.
I just, if you just go down, to when you're 8 years old, what position what sport would you want your kid to play? would you want your kid hit, getting his head knocked in, or would you rather have him playing basketball? It's still a very physical game. I'm not knocking basketball at all, but you're not out there cracking skulls every single play,
I agree.
You may hit the court every once in a while, but you're not hitting helmets and hitting the ground at 40 miles an hour. I mean, it's just a different thing. And like the marketability, I totally agree. Here's an interesting take.
Hot take.
The NBA is a lot like soccer.
What?
In that it's only getting more popular. The difference is that the NBA started already at a bigger market in America than soccer did. It was almost an easier game for people to pick up. I don't know. Maybe it was just it's a ball and a hoop. Like I think that it's almost easier for Americans specifically, which is where you're going to get all your money, no matter what sport you are. You know what I mean? Like if we want to watch it, we're going to spend the money on it. And I think that the NBA started in a better spot in America than soccer did. And I think both are trending up, but I think that the NBA started at a much higher level than soccer did.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think another thing that sort of piggybacks on that concept is I think just like basketball, when you're young, is sort of viewed as a cooler sport. Like, at least in America, because I think soccer is sort of viewed as, oh, everyone played soccer when you were in third grade, right? But if you I think the connotation of playing soccer when you're a little bit older, like in high school and stuff, it's like, oh, that's cute. Like no one here at least really views it as like a possible career path. Whereas obviously in Europe and other places like that, it's definitely different. But I agree with you. I think part of it is basketball here is just sexier. People are like, oh, you play basketball? Like point guard of the basketball team. That's a guy you want to date.
It used to be quarterback.
Yeah.
Now it's point guard. Or you're like Colin Hartman and you're both.
Yeah, shout out to
Colin Hartman for the state championship, baby. Thank you.
Shout out.
So yeah, I get what you're saying there. I think we're both in agreement. So I wonder if our listeners, look, if you disagree, I think that's fine. Like right now, the
I think
NFL is
it's
on
great.
top.
Disagreement is a lot of fun. I enjoy some locker room beef.
Shout out.
I wrote an article about this. It's called, I think I called it, this is the end of the NFL's dominance, and I was basically just talking about sort of what you reflected. Like what's going to happen is a lot of these players that are watching or that play football now, it's kind of like what you were saying, that you just feel bad for them. It's almost synonymous to when all the studies came out of how bad cigarettes are for you. And look, you're already in when you start smoking like that. So for those people, you couldn't do anything. But now, obviously, 30, 40 years later, a lot more people don't smoke, especially in America. So, and the reason is because we know how harmful it is for you, right?
Yep.
And I think football is sort of the same way in that it's just something that you do, obviously you can't really make money smoking unless you must be legit, like Wiz Khalifa or something.
Who, me?
Wiz Khalifa, yeah.
What?
So yeah, basically I think the NFL is at a crossroads, and what's going to happen is our generation, when we have kids, it's going to be tough to say, son, daughter, go play football. I don't see me being like, I want my kid to get smashed every other play when at a young age when they're still developing and growing.
Mm-hmm. And you almost see the NFL self-imploding, in that you see a lot of NFL players that have retired, like Peyton Manning and people like that. They're almost advocating for a flag football. They're advocating for playing flag football.
Yeah, that's weird.
How is that going to do for the NFL? I mean, you can't make money off of that. I mean, I remember when you and I were watching the Super Bowl and they had the flag football the championship. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
Nope.
And it was just like, it was entertaining, but it was almost a joke as to how entertaining it was. Like it was just a joke. And,
At some point, it's just not football, and that's what I wrote about too. Like it's difficult for the NFL because you can implement all these rules, right? But the softer you make the NFL, the less it is football, right? Like part of the reason why you enjoy football so much is the gladiator element.
These guys are straight up gladiators. I mean, you can't. I mean, they already have something wrong in their brains if they want to go around flying around at 19 miles an hour, just bashing heads with each other.
Oh my God.
But I mean, they are just straight up gladiators. Go out there and hit someone. That's what your job is, and that's it's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I respect the hell of football players. I'm friends with a lot of them, but
some of the toughest dudes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but it's just I just feel bad for them because in reality, it's just not safe, right? I mean, in any sport you can get injured, right? But it's just like now I think we're really starting to understand the severity of it all.
Mm-hmm.
But So let's go back to the NBA a little bit. You're an OKC fan. I mean, you mentioned that
Thunder.
before. I would say, I would say decent summer. Just to
You
put it
want an
this way.
average.
Yeah, put it this way. They traded Enes Kanter, like a second rounder, the equivalent of Serge Ibaka, for
Yep.
Paul George and Carmelo Anthony to accompany their already MVP Russell Westbrook.
He's an idiot.
Rank them number 1 in off-season trades.
I agree with you. I think they're number 1. For me,
I think Cleveland is close.
What?
Yeah, I think Cleveland is not Cleveland. I'm sorry. Boston. I think Boston is close.
Tongue twisted, I guess.
But OKC got the steal of the century with Carmelo
Who, me?
and PG.
it's going to be interesting to see how that mixed bag works. I sort of hope it does, just because the NBA is always more fun when superstars are sort of gelling. So I hope the same.
We're in the age of big threes at this point, and
Yeah.
the more big guys you have, like the more superstars you have, the better your team is going to be, which is a very easy equation if you think about it. The more superstars, the better chance you have of getting a championship.
Brain at it
So,
again. Brain
exactly.
at it again.
If you want
He's an idiot.
to start some equations with me, baby, let's get at it.
What?
So one big thing that stood out to me about this team is I watched their game yesterday against Melbourne.
Oh God, they barely beat that team.
They did, and you want me to tell you the number one reason I think they did?
What?
They went to ISO basketball.
Who, me?
Oh man.
It was all of them individually saying, "I can beat my man, and I can get around." Now, maybe that's just because they knew they were playing such an inferior opponent. Sorry, Melbourne, but you're just not up to the level of an NBA
If you're
OKC
Melbourne,
team.
come on now.
Exactly. But I hope that isn't a trend. You know,
Yeah, I
because
agree
if
with
they
you.
all resort to ISO basketball, it's going to be Russell Westbrook bringing the ball down every single time, PG bringing it down, shooting a three, or Melo bringing it down and shooting a three, and that's not going to be. We obviously saw that Russ can't do it on his own. So
What?
if you just put out shooters, I mean, that's great. But Golden State has chemistry. Cleveland is going to have chemistry. Boston's going to have chemistry. If you don't have chemistry, you're screwed.
Yeah, and part of that's coaching, and I'm still a little suspect on how OKC does in that department.
Yeah, I love Billy D. He brought 2 championships to the Gators. Shout out Gators. Shout out basketball, baby.
What?
Go Billy D. But whether he can make it in the NBA, I think it's going to be really proven in this season.
I agree. I mean, this is his best opportunity to succeed. I definitely think this is just a coaching debacle for that entire front office.
I don't agree. I think after this season we'll have the ability to call it a debacle if it doesn't work. But I think right now they're still at an okay spot. Like I wouldn't start pointing fingers yet.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, I think it's a problem that they're going to have to fix, just because, like, I do
okay.
think the chemistry is going to be something they're going to have to work on, and they're going to have to all have the same mindset. And although there is going to have to be a little bit of an ISO element, but this month's not crazy. But if I was coaching the team, I would be saying, Russell Westbrook, you're going to need to average 15 assists.
What?
You averaged 10 last year with the players that you averaged them with. This year you have 2 arguably all-stars. You have 2 guys that might be Hall of Fame players. You need to utilize them like they're your babies. You
What?
basically need to utilize them like 2 KDs. And that doesn't mean just give them the ball and take a step back. It means set them up just like you give them the looks that Andre Roberson and all the other horrible players that OKC had last
Hey,
year.
Steven Adams was okay.
No, Steven Adams, I mean, look, that
He was the
guy,
only bright spot.
I agree with you, and that guy is going to be a perfect 4 for them, because I think he's very underrated. He's one of the best big men in the league. I mean,
I
you
think
can't
he's
really
very
argue.
underrated. I've always said he's a very good big man.
Yeah, and I just think that's the perfect guy, because he's super scrappy. He loves doing the dirty stuff. He loves
What?
talking shit, and I think that's the kind of guy you want when you're trying to go to battle and trying to go to war with a lot of these superstar teams.
On the Russell Westbrook part, do you think it's almost going to be you got to get them the ball to try and prove to them that or try and convince them to stay?
Oh yeah, I mean, look, now that Westbrook is going to be in OKC, I definitely think that he's gonna want, obviously he wants one of those guys to stay, if not both.
Well,
and I
me?
think if they have success, it's going to be difficult for Paul George and Carmelo to be like,
I'm going
But
to go
it's-
to LA
Yeah, but it's going
and
to be
risk it.
Yeah, it's going to be really easy, I think, to go to LA if they do poorly. I mean, if they win like 45 games and like maybe are like a 6th seed or a 5th seed and they get bounced in the first round,
Sure.
I I see Paul George being like, I
I'm
can
out,
go
man.
home to Los Angeles.
What if both teams do well? What if LA and OKC do well? What do you think?
Well, look, I don't even think LA has to do well because I just think I kind of look at it as where would I like to work? Oklahoma City or Los Angeles? And the thing is, there are already pieces in play where I know that in the future, Los Angeles, 1, is probably the best free agency spot in the land. And 2, you have I'm pretty high on him, but you have arguably the best young talent in the NBA in Lonzo Ball.
What?
And he's the best young talent to recruit other players because he's not the type of guy to swallow the basketball. He's the type of guy to throw it up.
As proven by his UCLA.
Yeah, exactly. So he's the kind of guy that can sponsor these superstars. And so I think that becomes a super attractive get for not only Paul George, but LeBron James or whoever else is interested in going to Los Angeles in the coming years.
Okay.
So I definitely agree with you there. But let's pivot back toward the NFL. Talk a little bit about, obviously you're a pretty avid NFL fan as well. I've sort of adopted the Bucs in the past couple of years. It's been an okay season. I definitely, you were kind of with me and sort of thought that this might be a breakout year for Jabu. Sort of hoping for that. It could still happen. It's still early in the season, but
he's still got his chances. I think they just have to figure out how to utilize Deshaun Jackson. I just feel like they have not been able to get him the ball in the ways that they do. And I almost hate to say it, Mike Evans is the reason Jabu looks so good. Mike Evans will go up there and make whatever play he needs to on the ball to be able to make him look good. And I'm not knocking Jabu too much, but I am saying Mike Evans is kind of helping save him in a few instances.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Mike Evans is a baller. The dude's 24 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
He's only trending up, and it's incredible because at this point, you'd think that they would try and double cover him or do something to be able to stop him. But no matter what they do, he's still getting the ball. It's incredible the way he's playing.
Yeah, you see any other players or teams you're surprised by? I think an audible mention is obviously the Giants. I can't believe they still haven't gotten a win. I feel bad for them.
They're going to go 0-7 into the bye.
I agree with you. I think it's pretty rough. And now Odell's out, and that's obviously their man, not only marketing wise, but just team wise. And I just feel bad for him because a lot of people were like, I don't know, this team's got a lot of offensive power, and the defense has been a top 10 defense over the past couple of years. You got to look at the Giants as a serious contender. So I think that was a big surprise for me.
It all stems from the offensive line. That offensive line cannot protect anything, man. And Eli is not a mobile quarterback, as I think everyone has been. I think everyone kind of knew that if you can get Eli to move, he's screwed. And this offensive line, they can't protect. They can't protect Russell Wilson getting out of the pocket. It's just bad. And Odell going out, definitely hurts. I'm almost at the point to where I'm saying trade Odell.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Do you think he's valuable? A lot of people I think have mixed feelings about Odell, like you love him or hate him. What's your thoughts?
He's a hard dude to love and hate at the same time.
What?
Just because it feels like he has heart, but it doesn't feel like it's in the right spot.
Yeah.
Feels like it's
I feel like his priorities aren't the right
they're
priorities.
Just not on the team, and it's kind of like Antonio Brown, almost like.
Well, me?
Bro, we'll trade you and we'll get what we can because you can get a shit ton for Odell. Some team out there will trade a good amount for Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah,
because he's still a very talented wide receiver. I'll say it. I totally agree that he is one of the best wide receivers. I just don't think he fits a New York Giants football persona.
Yeah.
Because if you go back to the championship teams, no one was out of place. Everyone knew you're at meetings 10 minutes early. If you're meeting on time, you're late.
That's it.
That shit was run like a tight ship when Tom Coughlin was there, and then Ben McAdoo comes in. Shit's starting to hit the fan, and I feel like Ben McAdoo's time it's going.
Yeah, I agree with you. One thing about Odell is I think he's super valuable from a marketing standpoint. He signed a shoe deal that was basically unprecedented in the NFL, and I think that's something that will be a trend later on because it's kind of weird to me. I didn't even realize that there aren't signature football cleats really.
Yeah.
And I think
there's always a team shoe, but then all these guys are always going away from the team shoe now, and they're always doing their own thing, which I respect. It's cool. You can make your own, shout out to whatever you want to take a shout out to.
Shout out.
But it's a little weird at the same time. Like, you got Odell running out in the Joker shoes, and you're like, what are you wearing?
Yeah, but I think that's like a trend that's actually going to go upward. I think it's another way for them to make a buck. It's another way for them to be marketable, and it's a good thing for the NFL, I think, in totality, because although it doesn't look very uniform, it allows for their stars to look like more like stars, and allows for younger guys to be like, what are you wearing? I'm wearing Odell's, or I'm wearing Browns, or whatever. So I think there's definitely a trend, and another reason why I think Odell might be valuable, especially in a trading aspect. But I agree with you there. Let's pivot again. Let's talk about Champions League a little bit. We're early,
Definitely early.
Yeah, definitely really early, but you can start to, see the seeds a little bit. I'm a Madridista. I love Real Madrid, Ala Madrid. I'm not really a Madridista. I'm a Ronaldo fan. But I try to watch basically every Champions League game that I can. And I think we might even agree on who we sort of think is the scariest team. So I want to hear your thoughts first, but what are your thoughts on maybe what are the scariest teams to play right now, and maybe a dark horse or a team that you just don't think is going to perform?
PSG.
Simple as that.
Scariest team right now, bro. That three-pronged attack. You got Mbappe running up the side, Cavani in the center, and Neymar on the other side. You can't face a scarier team right now. And I think that's crazy. Even with the kind of, locker room problems, if you want to call it, or even on the field problems, has been evident. Locker room beef.
Shout out.
Or even just on the field problems that have been evident. I still think that they are an incredible team that's going to be one hell of a force to reckon with. And I think with more time, they'll be able to kind of maybe see the bigger picture. I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. But they are one scary team, man.
Yeah, it's actually my pick too for who I think is the scariest team in Champions League.
I think Tottenham is actually going to be a pretty good team.
Really?
And they're in a pretty hard group with Borussia and Real.
Yeah, they're going to have a tough time getting out.
They will, but I think both Real's on top and Tottenham's in second right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think Tottenham's up there. I agree with you. The biggest thing for them is to be able to get out of group stage, which will be tough for them because that means Dortmund or Real are out, which those are two top dogs right there.
Yep.
Dortmund always a team that I'm like, maybe this is the year, because I feel like they're supremely talented, but always the team that people sort of forget, but are just as talented as the top dogs.
Yeah.
So I honestly think I would not be surprised if the winner of Champions League comes out of that group.
It very well could. One team that I'm very surprised about is Bayern.
How so?
Underperforming. Very disappointing, and their coach is gone. It's tough times in Bayern right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Munich is going through some trouble. I just think they're always a supremely talented team, and maybe even the most well-rounded team. But it seems like they're going a little bit doing a little bit of a changeover. Now Kimmich is getting a lot of minutes. I know Vidal, Thiago are some of their main stars now. I think they're sort of fading away from the Mullers, from the Robins, from the Ribery's, as far as being the focal points at least in their offense. And I think now they're focusing. Lewandowski's been a beast over the past couple of years.
He will be a beast. He's going to continue to be the beast.
Yeah, what he's doing for Poland right now is insane. He is carrying like a ship.
What?
It's insane.
Carrying him like Germany did through the World War II.
Shout out.
Yeah,
Shout out Poland.
Yeah, so I definitely think that's another team to look out for and see how they perform.
I'll tell you what, Atletico may not make it. I actually just pulled up the group sets right now. Atletico, they're in a bad spot right now.
Who's their group?
Chelsea, Roma, Atletico, and Karabakh.
What?
Oh yeah, well, sorry, Karabakh. That's probably not going to work out for you.
Yeah,
but
they're at a -7 goal differential right now, so they aren't doing too well. But Chelsea and Roma right now are owning that group.
Yeah, and I honestly think those are two good teams. You can't deny it.
Two very good teams.
I agree with you. Any last things you want to reflect on for Champions League?
Liverpool will not play well. Shout out Boatright. Sorry, buddy.
Shout out.
Beef.
That's some real locker
Barcelona.
room stuff.
What do you think about Barcelona?
It's gonna take them a couple years, and they are. And I think, look, this is Messi's time to be like, I'm better than Ronaldo. It really is though, because
this is
it's
his best chance because he is the only dude on that team right now that can make any difference.
yeah. I mean, Suarez, look, that guy's consistent and he's good, but I think Dembele, it's gonna take time for him. I think he's injured right now too. It's gonna take time for him to really figure it out. And I just think of the shock of not really having Neymar and another creator and another person to just kind of complete the trio. Another reason why I think PSG is so good, because I think their trio is just solid. So yeah, I kind of don't see Barcelona performing well. Iniesta is getting old as rocks. I mean, he's making Vince Carter looking young.
Oh, shit, shut up, Vince, baby.
Yeah, so I definitely think this is not Barca's year. At least I'd be very surprised. You know what I would love, though? I would love for PSG and Barca to meet at some point. God, that would be a good game, especially what happened last Champions League, and the fact that I turned off the TV when they were down like 4 goals, and then I turned it back on, and Barcelona ends up advancing.
What?
But now also with the trade, I mean, that would be better than opening night of the NBA with Kyrie meeting LeBron.
Carmelo going back to New York, yeah.
Yeah,
no, I agree. Insane. I think it's gonna be very interesting to see the way that these teams can try and mesh with the pieces that they have. I think Real Madrid, honestly, they're a great team. I'm not trying to knock Real Madrid. I just feel like they've kind of taken almost a half step back.
Bro, what are you talking about?
It doesn't feel like they're in the same form that they were going into last year's Champions League.
Yeah, I'm thinking on the boat that you're going to see Eden Hazard on the Madrid team.
You think he's going to be Madridista?
I do. I think Bale is going to start to fall off, and I think they're gonna get some money for him, and he's going to go elsewhere. And I think
he may go back to Europe. He could go right where Eden is right now.
Yeah, honestly, I could see them doing almost a switch.
Yeah.
So let's talk about our last topic, one I'm super excited for. Hopefully, if anyone's still here, thank you for trooping. Hopefully, this last topic can really juice you up. And I definitely want you guys to sort of think about your own answers. So the topic is, who are the top 5 athletes of the 21st century? So basically of our lifetime, of young people's timeline, people listening to this podcast. If you're looking at the reign from 2000 and on, who are the top 5 athletes? Basically the way we're going to do this is, do you want first pick or do I get first pick?
I'll give you first pick.
Oh, you're so nice. I'll basically go first, and we'll just go in a draft order and go back and forth. But basically the scenario is, aliens have abducted us, and we need to have 5 athletes sort of represent Earth.
What?
And what 5 athletes do we send? So this is our starting 5 of our top 5 athletes of the 21st century. So I'm going first. Dang. Okay. So I have a lot of names written here, and it's difficult because there's, for me, like 9 or 10 that would have to be in my top 5.
This is one of the hardest lists you could possibly ask someone to make.
It's so difficult. It's like choosing between your kids, but honestly, it's probably way more difficult than that because I don't have kids, but I know that parents have favorites. For sure. Shout out my dad. I know I'm his favorite, so thank you.
Shout out.
And my mom, so that's pretty sweet. Sorry, Raquel. That's my little sister. So my first pick. Here we go. For my first pick, best athlete of the 21st century, I'm going to go with Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
I think Michael Phelps needs to be put on here. One, because, look, he's the best athlete of his sport ever. Kind of inarguable.
That's that.
2, he's arguably the best Olympic athlete of all time, which the best sports, the most notable sports, at least maybe not minus football, are in the Olympics. And for him to be the best athlete in the Olympics, I mean, that says something about him too. I'll never forget the iconic, I think it was ESPN or Sports Illustrated picture where he has the 8 medals across his chest. I mean, it's kind of like Bill Russell with championship rings. Like, he needs an extra finger.
It doesn't get any better.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's just a monster. Over 20 gold medals. I mean, he only has like 1 or 2 silver and 1 bronze. I mean, every time that guy gets in the water, he's literally a fish.
For me?
So I'm gonna take Michael Phelps for my first pick.
I respect it. He was definitely on my list. I won't even deny it. Like, he's just incredible. Great job of getting away with smoking pot too. I mean, you can't.
I honestly don't get it. How he was able to like not let that tarnish his reputation is honestly insane.
He's an idiot.
Here we goes. Mine. Also, an Olympic athlete. Usain Bolt.
Oh, wow.
Usain Bolt. It was on my list too.
The dude is incredible. The world records. Every single time it feels like that man steps on the track, it's going to be a world record, or you almost marked him in as a gold. He was just like Michael Phelps in that he's running gold. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just incredible the way that man can take over a sport.
Yeah.
And anytime that you run against him, like you got to think of like Justin Gatlin. He doped and he couldn't even beat Usain Bolt.
I can't do it.
I mean, it's just.
The thing about Usain Bolt is you'll watch it. I mean, and typically he does the short distances or the shortest ones offered, and they'll take 10 seconds. You know, the match will take 10 seconds, and he'll just sort of like cruise control the first 5 seconds. And he's like, oh yeah, I should probably win this. And then by the end of it, by the time he crosses the finish line, he'll look back like, oh wow, that was actually a little bit of a shorter distance than I thought. Like he just makes it look dumb. Like it's like he has the game sliders like on his little virtual video game just ranked up for his little legs. Like it's insane. Usain Bolt, a great pick, definitely one that I had on my list. Okay, for the third pick, my second pick. Gosh, this is difficult. I think I'm down to 2. I think I'm gonna go. Man, this is really tough. I think I'm going to go with somebody we actually already mentioned earlier in the pod.
Well, me?
I'm going to go with Tiger Woods.
What?
Here's why. For people that don't really remember or don't follow golf, I'm not even a person that necessarily says that I'm a huge golf fan, but Tiger Woods had non-golf people just salivating at watching golf.
No.
And a lot of people are like, oh man, golf is so boring. And I'm kind of like that too. If I need to go to sleep and have background noise, that's what I turn on. So for him to make a sport like that captivating and win the amount of PGA championships, I think it was like 47 or something ridiculous like that. I mean, it's insane. And
he was gonna be the all-time leader if he never got into trouble.
I know. And so yeah, obviously you sort of look at the mental lapse that he's taken, and it's sad because if I'm putting him on my third overall pick for the greatest athlete of the century.
The thing is with him, you gotta just keep it an athlete. You can't think of it as a moral standpoint. You can't think of it as he's a piece of shit. I mean, you can't
He's an idiot.
turn it any other way. But the dude was one hell of an athlete with playing golf. I mean, it was just incredible every time he was on the tour.
I agree. So that's my third pick. What's your next pick?
I don't know how you're gonna feel about this one. Tom Brady.
What?
Wow. I mean, he was lower on my list. He was like my 9th.
Okay.
That's enough.
Okay.
But I did have him on my list.
And I understand that a lot of people may not agree with Tom Brady. My number one argument is look at where that man was drafted and look at where he's ended up.
Take that for data.
That's my number one argument. I mean, you got to think that it takes a man that goes from the lowest of the low in the NFL draft to be the number one quarterback of all time.
Thank God that the starter at the time got injured and that Tom even got
his chance.
I mean, that's honestly insane. If that never happened, you could argue that the greatest NFL quarterback of all time would have never been a player.
Yep.
So I agree with you there. That's honestly insane. All right, my next pick. One that I thought you were going to take by now. I mean, I know you really like this person, but my next pick, I'm going to go with a person that I think is the greatest player in his sport ever, and that is Roger Federer.
Shout out.
Again, people who don't follow tennis.
Much respect. Very hard not to pick Roger Federer.
This guy is a monster, and yes, we're in the times of also other monsters in tennis, but this guy's just world class. Not only off the court, but on the court, he's just an animal, and he's aged super well. And I believe he's the leader in majors, right?
He is.
So like that guy is just a monster, and I think it's going to be difficult to see if somebody else is able to surpass him in majors. I mean, Rafa's got a chance, but his difficulty is staying healthy.
Staying healthy. It's the injuries. It's all the injuries.
And I wonder if he's going to age well, because Rafa just puts, his game style really puts a ton of pressure on his body. And look, I think Rafa's a top 5 athlete, if you ask me. But I wonder if he's able to reach the reins of Roger. Because for me, Roger, the 5th overall pick, my 3rd pick, definitely want him my starting 5 to show the aliens.
Federer, very, very, just the world class all around. And you can take any aspect of Roger Federer's life and you can staple world class to it, whether it's on the court, off the court, the way that he treats other players, the way that, the Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal is the one of the greatest rivalries of all time.
Oh yeah, and just like co-stars, it's been insane.
Oh yeah, and they love each other. That's what I love about it. Is they'll go at it as hard as they can on the court, but they aren't going to talk shit to each other. They aren't going to diss each other. They're always going to show absolute world class to each other because they know just how high of a level of tennis they play every single time they touch the court. And it's just you gotta love the way that they compete. You gotta love it.
Yeah, I agree. I try to never miss a Rafa-Roger matchup. The last one I saw was really like 2:45 a.m. and I could not wait for it.
Exactly.
All right, so who's your next pick?
LeBron.
Wow. Okay. Say why.
I almost can't think of an athlete that takes over a team sport every single time that he's on the court. When you play LeBron in the playoffs,
you're screwed.
You're screwed unless you're in the finals. The man's been to
unless you have 4 superstars to go at him.
How many straight finals? Is it 5? 7 straight finals? Jesus, man. You're screwed if you play him in anywhere else in the playoffs, because you just know that man has such a leadership characteristic on that team, and one of the biggest wills to win, like a Michael Jordan-esque will to win. I will do whatever I have to do to win this ball game.
Yeah, he's the GOAT of our lifetime.
And exactly. The man is a tight end playing basketball.
I agree with you. He's a monster, a good pick. And when we send him to the aliens, I think the aliens would be like, "Oh, that's an interesting one right there."
Shit, we're gonna send him back.
That's
this guy's
an
already
interesting
taking over our colony.
Yeah. All right. So here's my next pick. I'm so happy he's still on the board, because I would have been sad if he wasn't on my team. He is the best.
I'm already writing it down.
He is the best soccer player in the world.
What?
And you can at me, because I will argue this till the day I die. I think it was always neck and neck until the Euros happened. And yes, I know that he did not play for the majority of the final game. But look,
he's the reason they got to the final.
He's the reason he got there, and look, he didn't just sit back. If you watched, he was almost overly involved from the bench. He was basically the assistant coach on a torn ACL. So, for me, Ronaldo is my 4th pick. Obviously, a little biased. I love that guy, but I do think him and Messi are. I'm going to argue both are the top 2 players in soccer ever. If you look at how talented both leagues are that they play in, and just like what they've been able to accomplish. The unprecedented run of how many Ballon d'Ors they've traded off. For me, they're 1 and 1A in a lot of ways. I would put Ronaldo just etched above, just because he has a little bit more international success. Although, yes, I know that Messi was able to go to the final for many Copas. But look, winning it, I hate to say it, but sometimes it just comes down to rings and chips. And that's just one thing that Ronaldo has that Messi doesn't. And I just think that Ronaldo will also age a little bit better. And he's also a good looking athlete to just show the aliens. So for me, I'll take Ronaldo.
Okay. How are we dividing this between men and women?
Oh no, you're stealing my 5th pick.
Serena Williams.
No, I was going to have the perfect 5. You stole my 5th pick.
Yes,
I didn't think you'd be thinking that way.
Because that woman is a man in a women's league. And I'm not even knocking her. Just the way that
she's unbelievable.
She's so intimidating. And you can see it in the eyes of her opponent. They're intimidated when they step onto the court against her.
You were talking about the LeBron effect? Oh, yeah. She's got major LeBron effect. And the thing is, it's an individual sport, so you just watch that person crumble.
Mm-hmm.
No,
They
she's a
can't do
monster.
it. They just can't do it. They cannot keep up. She's just
No, she is incredible. I think.
doubles and singles. I mean, it's far and away one of the best women player of all time. Probably the best women player of all time. One reason I'm not saying the best women's player of all time is because I don't really know many female tennis players. Only reason I know Serena is because she dominates.
Yeah,
she absolutely dominates.
I'm going to venture to say she's the best female athlete of all time. And to be honest, I really almost thought about starting this really on a different note and taking her first, because if I could have the best athlete of a gender, I think I'm going to take that. And for her, I think you could argue who's the best male athlete of this list. But for females, I mean, I think you can give an honorable mention to like a Lindsey Vonn, for example.
Shout out.
But I think Serena, what a great pick. I hate that you took her. I honestly am frazzled right now, and I'm going to have to do something that I really didn't want to do, and you know what it is. For my fifth pick, I'm going to have to take the guy that I was hoping I wouldn't have to take because I thought you would take him. But I have to take him because he's unbelievable too, and I just mentioned him. So I'll take Lionel Messi to finish out my starting five. Look, I'm not a type of person that just says screw Messi just because I'm a Ronaldo fan. That guy's world class. People need to.
The only time you say screw Messi is when we're playing FIFA.
Oh yeah, true that, because he's an automatic goal, and I just hate that.
Well,
but look, that guy, he is unbelievable. He, especially at his stature, I mean, at 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", what he's able to do with the ball, it's honestly insane. I feel like there's an invisible rubber band every time he dribbles. Like, it's just insane how he's able to keep such good touch. And like, I of all people, if there's like an opportunity that comes Messi's way, I'm basically sharpening it in that it's going to go in. And I even think in that scenario, I think Messi's better than Ronaldo when it comes to just being a sure thing. But yeah, so I'll finish out this. So my starting five, it looks like it's Michael Phelps, Tiger Woods, Roger Federer, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Lionel Messi. Repeat your starting five again.
Usain Bolt, Tom Brady, LeBron James, Serena Williams. Last but not least, a baseball player.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
Mariano Rivera.
Oh, I had this on my honorable mentions.
Best relief pitcher I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, I've only been alive for 20 years, so you cannot say that I've been along for many, but I'm a New York Yankees fan through and through. One team that I forgot to give a shout out to just beat Cleveland Indians tonight, moving on to Game 5, forced Game 5. Shout out, Judge.
Shout out.
Mariano Rivera. 608 saves in the 21st century.
Oh my gosh.
Set the I believe it was the MLB record with 53 saves in a single season. He has the most notorious cutter that you will ever see in the MLB.
Yeah, he's got to be probably the most respected guy in baseball. I mean, him or the other honorable mention I have, which is
Him or Jeter.
Derek Jeter, number 2.
So hard not to put him on my list. Love Derek Jeter, favorite baseball player to ever live. Greatest athlete. I had to give it to Mo just because he dominated that plate. Anytime he came in for a save, I was like, this game's over. This game's over.
I agree. What are just some honorable mentions before we finish up here that you really thought about but just couldn't put on your list?
Sure. Derek Jeter.
Me too.
Anderson Silva from the MMA.
Yeah.
Incredible fighter. Kobe Bryant.
Floyd was one.
Floyd. Great fighter. Kobe.
I said Lindsey Vonn already. Phil Mickelson, somebody you mentioned earlier in the pod. I mean, not Tiger, but as far as 21st century goes, got to be the most successful.
The thing is, yeah, he was always just right on the cusp of what Tiger was doing. He was right at the heels of Tiger every single time. If it wasn't Tiger winning, it was Phil.
Yeah.
Also, absolute world-class person.
Yeah, you said Kobe. I definitely think I'm kind of surprised I didn't make either of our lists. And then another person, Tim Duncan.
Shout out.
Tim Duncan. I was actually debating between Mo and Timmy.
Really? Yeah. So, and Barry Bonds. Just an asterisk.
Asterisk. We're still,
but definitely a legend.
Still figuring that one out.
Go figure out if you prefer Brian's all time 21st century starting five or mine. do something on Twitter, say something on Twitter. Maybe I'll set up a poll. I definitely want people to sort of weigh in. And who do we forget? I'm sure there's some good names that we're not giving a shout out to.
Please add us. Let us know who we missed, because I'm interested in what some other people have to say.
I agree. You stole Serena from me. I was gonna just be like my Steven Adams. You know, I was just gonna put it all together. But
the big man.
so thank you so much. Thank you for joining me on this pod. I hope we can do many more. And to the listeners, just go follow us on whatever. Go tweet at Brian Boatright. He's an awesome person, and
he's an idiot.
Look, he's brain. So you can just bring whatever you want to him.
Let me know. We're talking sports equations. I'll talk sports equations all day. We're talking math equations. No. I ain't taking math class.
So no math.
Don't let me know.
Locker Room Beef Podcast. Thank you so much, and signing off.